You don't want to work. Become a dog. You don't want deadlines. Become a dog. You want to sleep all day and still be loved? Become a dog. Because right now, on this planet, there might not be a better life than being a dog. They get carried when they're tired. They get forgiven for everything. Somehow, they became the standard we measure our best friends against, our best partners against, even our own loyalty against. Faithful as a dog. But it wasn't always like this. Thousands of years ago, dogs weren't born as our best friends. They were wolves waiting outside our fire. For most of human history, this would have been unthinkable. A wolf, this close, this calm. But somewhere between 40,000 and 15,000 years ago, it started happening anyway. Not because anyone planned it. Not because anyone tamed a wolf pup and raised it by hand. It happened because of garbage, real garbage. Bones, scraps, half-eaten carcasses left behind at the edges of human camps. And some wolves noticed. Here's the strange part. You didn't domesticate the dog. The dog domesticated itself. Gray wolves are cautious animals. Most keep their distance from anything unfamiliar, humans included. Fear of new things is called neophobia, and it's a survival trait. New things might be dangerous. Better to run first and ask questions never. But not every wolf carries the same amount of fear. Some are bolder, calmer around strange sounds and strange shapes moving in the dark. In a population of wolves living near human hunting camps, that variation mattered more than anyone at the time could have known. Anthropologist Brian Hare has spent decades studying this exact question. What if domestication wasn't a project? What if it was a filter? Human camps produced waste. Bones stripped of meat, fat scraps, carcasses too damaged to bother with. Free calories, just sitting there. But only the boldest wolves, the ones with the least fear of humans, were calm enough to actually approach and take it. Every generation, those bolder wolves ate better. Better fed wolves had more pups, and their pups inherited that same lower threshold for fear. Generation after generation, without a single human deciding to breed anything. The wolves hanging around camp got calmer, friendlier, bolder, not because humans chose it, because the wolves, who could tolerate humans, simply outsurvived. And outbred the ones who couldn't. Natural selection, with nobody steering it. You might be wondering how anyone could prove this. Wolves don't leave written records. But there's a famous experiment that shows exactly this process in action. And it wasn't even done with wolves. In 1959, Soviet scientist Dmitry Belyaev started breeding silver foxes on a farm in Siberia. He selected for exactly one trait, tameness. Nothing else. Not size, not color, not shape. Within a few generations, the foxes didn't just act tamer. They started looking different. Floppy ears, curled tails, patches of white fur, shorter snouts. Traits nobody selected for showed up as a side effect of selecting for calmness alone. Why? Because tameness and those physical traits are wired to the same underlying biology, what researchers call domestication syndrome. Select for calm behavior, and a whole cluster of physical changes tends to follow along for the ride. Sound familiar? Floppy ears, curled tails, patchy coats, shorter snouts. The exact same pattern, produced by the exact same mechanism, this time playing out over thousands of years around human trash heaps instead of decades on a Soviet fox farm. Genetic evidence backs this up. Research led by Robert Wayne, later refined by teams analyzing ancient DNA, places the wolf-to-dog split somewhere between 40,000 and 15,000 years ago, likely in multiple places across Europe and Asia at once. A 2021 study of ancient dog genomes found evidence for at least 2, possibly more, independent domestication events. This wasn't one clever human in one lucky moment. It was a pattern that repeated itself wherever wolves and human waste piles overlapped. Here's the twist. For most of that early relationship, humans weren't training dogs. Dogs were training themselves to tolerate humans because it paid off in calories. The partnership that came after, the hunting, the guarding, the companionship, was the reward, not the reason. Self-domestication came first. Usefulness came second. Only once these bolder wolves were already hanging around did actual human choice enter the picture. People started noticing which ones barked at predators, which ones seemed to bond with children. And real selective breeding began, layered on top of thousands of years of self-selection that had already happened. Think about what that means. The relationship between you and every dog that has ever slept at the foot of a bed did not start with a human deciding to have a pet. It started with an animal deciding, generation by generation, one bold ancestor at a time, that the risk of getting close to a fire full of strange, upright creatures was worth it for the bones left behind. And it's still visible today. Watch a dog approach a stranger's outstretched hand, tail low, body relaxed, none of the caution a wild wolf would show. That calm isn't an accident of one lifetime. It's the end product of tens of thousands of years of selection, running quietly in the background, long before anyone understood what selection even was. You didn't build that trust. It walked up to you first. So the next time someone calls you lazy as a dog, sleeping too much, avoiding the grind, refusing to be scared into anything, maybe don't take it as an insult. Evolution spent 1,000 years turning fear into comfort. And somewhere along the way, dog stopped meaning weak. It started meaning the one creature every other species learned to trust on sight.